if I'm being honest, I started training. I was moving through the months up to Christmas, but I didn't really start training until after Christmas. And even at Christmas, it looked a very, very long shot to get to the games. It really did. I remember turning up after Christmas to Haringey, the club I joined, and you know, for weeks on a Sunday, I was working out with 12 and 13-year-old kids up a hill. And, you know, you'd open the paper on the Monday, and you'd sort of go through the small print, and you'd find that Steve Ovett had run 3:34 in Australia. Crammy was running well. Elliot was running well. And that, I suppose, it was at that point that it seemed as far away as any challenge I'd ever faced.
And now it's the Olympic champion against the world champion, and it surely must be between these two. Abascal's hanging on there, but he must know in his heart of hearts that he's running for the bronze medal. It's Coe now to try and cope with Cram's attack. Now, has Cram done enough training? Can he cope with the Olympic champion? And he can't, and the crowd are rising now. Coe is away, he's running into history, and he knows it. Cram settles for second place. But the winner is taking his moment of history, the first runner ever to win gold medals twice at 1,500 metres. No British athlete, incidentally, has ever won 4 Olympic individual medals.
At 14, I really thought he was good. And at 16, I was certain that if I was patient and played it right, that he'd be a world beater.
He was very, very nervous as a little boy and didn't actually achieve very much. He achieved when it didn't matter, but when it came to the tests, like the 11 plus, you know, I think nerves got to him so much that he failed in 11 plus. But I think when he found that he was successful in athletics, this was the beginning of him being successful in a lot of areas.
From 13, 14, 15, it was his willingness to apply himself in all weathers, under all conditions, never to complain, and it is this bloody-minded determination to get to the end. All the really top performances come when it's hurting. Not just winning, it's how you win. It wants to be definitive.
In terms of the record books, Sebastion Coe is the most successful runner Britain has ever produced. At last count, holder of 12 world records or world best times and 4 Olympic medals. No British athlete before or since has come remotely near that achievement. Over the past decade, Coe's career has seen a spectacular climb to the very top. Some disappointments on the way, but mainly fresh peaks and horizons reached. Until the early summer of 1983, the future looked bright. Then, in a minor 1,500-meter race in Paris, he unexpectedly got beaten at this distance for the first time in 36 races in 7 years, apart from an Olympic qualifying heat. Little did Coe or the world know that on this humid summer evening, he would see the start of a nightmare that would, in the weeks ahead, reveal a rare blood disorder that would suddenly terminate his season and even threaten his whole running career.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know. It's a school of hard knocks, isn't it? You don't always get rid of people like that.
Seb, don't carry on at the start.
The nuisance of it was not being knocked off the track. It was having to pull up the pace to get back again, which is always unevenly distributed when you do that.
It was a very worrying, very sick-making year, because not only was he not responding to the training in the way that I wanted, but there was as yet no medical diagnosis of what was wrong, because it's not obvious.
I was getting pains in the abdomen, I was getting pains in the low back. My joints were sore. It was something that I had picked up that had infected the blood and certainly infected the lymph gland system. It was an infection that was living off my energy sources, leaving me very, very tired, irritable, just feeling very, very ill. I was in hospital. I'd had an exploratory operation under one arm. Within a week or two of that I was told from public health laboratory reports that I was suffering from toxoplasmosis.
If the summer of 1983 produced a shattering setback in the career of Sebastion Coe, the summer of 1979 saw the start of an incredible 41 days that would propel a young university student and his coach father Peter into the forefront of world athletics and the media spotlight.
Smith of Jamaica, a great scramble as they all come across. Smith of Jamaica has been told off to run a 50-second first lap, and Coe settles into second place. Looks like being a little bit of a time trial. It's the pacemaker then leading. Coe second, Mike Boyd of Kenya third, Pies of Spain fourth, Evans White of America in 5. In lane 6 is Brygan of Norway. In 7 is Gary Cook settling in there, but out at the front, the pacemaker taking it on, and it looks as if Coe would really like to go past him, almost holding himself back there, running well on top of the track, this very, very fast Bislett track. The time just about on schedule as the pacemaker there falls and falters, and he's dropped out. So Coe's left to do it all on his own.
And the time at the bell, 50.2 seconds, and Coe's already opened up at 9-10-yard gap on Mike Boyd, the Kenyan Commonwealth champion. And Coe streaking away from the field now and leaving a very class field for dead. If Coe can keep this up, we're on for a tremendous time. The gap's now 12 yards, and Coe looking relaxed as he comes into the 600-metre mark.
This is exactly how he ran in Brussels last year when he ran 1:44. His time at 600 metres, 75 seconds, even faster, well inside a world record pace. If he can hold this now, running absolutely on his own, except 15,000 people now standing, cheering him all the way down the track. A phenomenal run by Coe, and he's not faltering. He's still going away from Mike Boyd, one of the great runners of all time. A tremendous run by Coe all the way to the line, and the time 1:39, 1:40, 1:41, 1:42. I don't believe it. The world record currently 1:43.4 by Wantarena, and if the time is official, he's well inside that, a second inside the world record. And the announcement coming up, there's a lot of flurry at the timekeeper's place at the finish of the race. There's absolute confusion. They've announced it, and there it is, it's confirmed.
But I can only remember the exultation of, you know, saying, Christ, the voice there, he's there, you know.
It really did hit us like a tidal wave. That is the only description of it. From me going to an open day about my youngest daughter, about Emma, and not hearing the things I would like to have heard from her teacher, coming home, bawling Emma out for wasting time at school, and suddenly a picture of Seb on television, the 9 o'clock news saying Sebastion Coe this evening broke the world record. Well, we erupted in this room. Emma, I think, must have been so grateful that the shouting stopped, and we shouted so much in this room about Seb that we didn't actually know what he'd done. We just knew he'd done something, but what had he done? So I had to ring up the local Radio Sheffield, to say, did you hear what he did? Because we didn't, and they were the ones who actually were able to tell us what he'd done. I mean, I knew he'd gone for a race, and Peter knew it was going to be, you know, it was going to be a good race, but there's really no question of knowing that it was going to start the floodgates of that 41 days. Incredible.
After unexpectedly shattering the world 800-metre record in Norway, just 12 days later, Sebastion Coe was back at the Bislett Stadium, Oslo, for the Golden Mile.
When I go with Seb to a meeting, we've done the work, and there's nothing much to say, except that I had to say something to him before that mile. It was the Golden Mile, it was the greatest field assembled ever, and I said, you know, you can win this. And he just looked at me and he said, yeah, I know, Dad. And it was so quiet, and so unarrogant, and he's not a pushy lad like that, but I thought, Christ, here we go again, you know.
All the field now bunched in pursuit. They know that a fast race is on as they've moved through. They've had a 57-58 first lap, and they're coming through. They're on schedule for a similar sort of pace on the second lap. As they go through, that's about 1:55 for the half mile. and out goes Lacey. So it's now up to Steve Scott of America, and Sebastion Coe's gone with him, and they're leaving the field. A gap has opened up. Wessinghagen not able to move with them. This is a decisive break.
Yes, I think they misread the race there. When Lacey dropped out, it left it beautifully clear. Coglan's seen the danger, number 8, and he's chasing after, but Scott, as Lacey dropped out, Scott kicked hard, and only Sebastion Coe responded, and these two are well clear. And when you think of the calibre of this field, the world's finest runners, and Scott and Coe are well out in front, and Scott has to keep going because he must be terrified of Coe's ability. Coe's devastating finish, and look how relaxed he is. Scott labouring already, turns around and sees Coe, and Coe's going past him, and it's already opening up 10, 15 yards on the field, and Coe at the bell, he's going to be ahead of the field. He looks over his shoulder. The time at the bell
is 2:53. They're not only on to a great race here, but we're on to a very, very fast time. If Coe can finish with the same sort of strength and aggression that he did as he takes Scott on this last lap, we could be on for a world record even. It's Coe now, 8, 9 yards in front of Steve Scott, the American, and yards in front of the rest of the field, who are bunching in pursuit. They're sorting out, but really it's a matter of strength. It's Coe now against the clock, and all of the field could be on for a very fast time, but it's Sebastion Coe really making the rest of this field look very, very pedestrian.
He's looking round, but he must be confident. A slight grimace, but he's so relaxed, and he's coming away all down this field. Now they're waking up in the pack behind, but it's too late, they're forgotten. Coe's got time to look around, the crowd are rising, and the time extremely fast. Very near that world record, 3:49.4 it was, and he's underneath it. It's a new world record for Sebastion Coe, his second in 12 days. A phenomenal run, a fraction of a second under 3:49. Another barrier broached by this remarkable young man. 22 years old, and he has the world now at his fingertips.
His determination is built into him in that he is a winner. He has always insisted on winning. Every family must know the child who hates to be out at cricket, and you just have to forcibly kick him out and say, look, you very definitely were caught, or you very definitely were bowled. It's an aspect, I suppose, we don't really like with our children, but I faced that is really what he was like, although totally unaggressive in any other field. I mean, he never had to be a winner in anything else, but he did in sport.
And a Union Jack from the crowd, attached to the branch of a tree. What a marvellous moment for this young man. So modest, so able, but so tenacious on the track.
Everyone is dedicated if they see what they're doing is successful. I think when he saw he was successful, the more success he had, the more dedication he had. I don't think that if he hadn't been... In fact, I've said to him once, you know, you like success, you like winning, you're very dedicated in what you do. And he said, yes, but if I didn't win, I would find something else I want. If I didn't win in athletics, I would find something else I did win at.
You always strike me as a running machine. You never stop running, do you?
No, I just enjoy it. I mean, it's as simple as that. I just get a lot of pleasure from it.
Tell us about the race now. Could you hear the lap times when people were shouting out?
I heard the first lap being somewhere in the 50s, and I thought, you know, first lap felt quite easy. What surprised me was the third lap, which I thought was going to be the real crucial one out there. I thought that was going to be the difference between a jumped-up 800-metre runner and the 2-miler, and I didn't find it as hard as I thought it was going to be.
What did you plan? Because you were saying before the race today that you weren't quite sure how it was going to go. You didn't know how you were going to... Surely you were far more confident than that, really.
I think you've always got to be confident of your own ability. I think, you know, it's pointless stepping out on the track if you've got a certain amount of confidence. But to be quite truthful, you know, when you line up with the world's best miling field, and I mean it, you know, you just sit in. I think if you're not a miler, you let them do the worrying and decide what to do.
Would you count yourself a miler now?
Well, in the true sense of the word, no, because I'm not that really. This is the 4th mile in that many years. It's one a year for me.
There's always going to become a time in life when you've got to declare your intent, you know, nail the sails to the mast, colours or whatever, you know, and really go for it. It's a big night, the pressure is there. The minute you commit yourself, people are not only expecting it, but if you admit that it can be on, then of course the media will do the rest. The pressures that you invite by doing this are very, very substantial, and the more declared that intent is, the greater the pressure you create for yourself. But why not? You've got the 8, You got the mile, the 15 was the blank, let's go for it.
On the 15th of August, 1979, in Zurich, Switzerland, in front of a capacity crowd, Sebastion Coe was committed to breaking Filbert Bailly's 5-year-old 1,500-metre world record. Coe was by now a media event, the current sports sensation. In the eyes of the millions watching around the world on television that night, anything less than a new world record would have been a major disappointment, even failure. Seb and Peter Coe knew this, but were confident. The hard work had been done back home. Tonight was the payoff. David Miller, one of Britain's foremost sports writers and Coe's closest friend on Fleet Street, witnessed each of his key races from the beginning of his career and has a deep insight into the Coe character.
If you go back to when Seb emerged at the end of his teenage years, when he obviously had enormous potential, I think it was vital that Peter managed to achieve a transition from the young athlete into the adult without any serious breakdowns because of injury. And then, of course, what they discovered faster than they really expected was that Seb had this phenomenal basic speed. They weren't sure at first whether he was going to be a half miler or a miler 1,500 metres man. He's a very contained, introspective sort of chap. And the mental thing, when he's running, his concentration is enormous. He can manage to exclude, to a great extent, all the other things from his life. He simply, basically wants to be the fastest man of his time. Actually, to produce the mechanical conditions, the temperamental conditions, the physiological conditions that will make him the fastest man on earth.
100 Meter für Coe. Und kann es noch schaffen. 3:32,2, das ist die Zeit. Weltrekord. Jawohl.
By a margin of just 1/10 of a second, Sebastion Coe breaks the world 1,500-metre record on that August evening. His reputation is now secure. 41 days that rewrite the history books.
If you consider that at the beginning of July that season I broke the 800-metre world record, literally 12 days later I'd broken the mile, and a month after that I'd broken the 1,500 metres. I don't think it had too much of an adverse effect on me. The major departure in terms of all that came at the end of 1979, and it was a very difficult situation to be sitting literally 6, 7, 8 months away from an Olympic final, having broken 3 world records at that distance, and as far as the average guy on the street was concerned, I only had to turn up and stand up in the Olympic Stadium to win 2 Olympic gold medals. And anybody in athletics knew that that was far, far from being the truth.
By the close of 1979, Sebastion Coe had been voted International Sports Personality of the Year by many of the leading polls, newspapers and TV networks around the world. He was now a genuine star attraction. To further whet the public's appetite and expectation for the 1980 Moscow Olympics, less than 1 month before the start of the Games, Coe returned to the Bislett Stadium, Oslo, for the first time since his 41-day triumph, to challenge the 1,000-metre world record.
The whole of the field apart, he's very relaxed, he's very fluid. His controlled power that we saw at this stage last year, 1:45.2, the record's on if he can hold this. He takes a nervous glance look around. He doesn't look quite as relaxed now. Another look around, and Wolbeck's beginning to come back at him.
Yes, indeed, Wolbeck's suddenly woken up to the fact that he can run, and he can run this last 200, and Coe there gritting his teeth, tightening up, the world record standing at 2:13.9. Wolbeck closing on him with every stride. Has Coe got the strength to see himself through this line? He must do it. Can he break that world record now? 2:13.4. By half a second, he takes his 4th world record. Not since Alf Schraub in about 1906 has anybody held 4 world records.
By lowering the world mark for 1,000 metres, Sebastion Coe established a unique milestone. The only athlete ever to hold simultaneously the 800-metre, 1,000-metre, 1,500-metre and 1-mile world records. The next challenge, Moscow and the Olympic Games, to achieve the elusive 800-metre and 1,500-metre double.
Training to be good has to be systematic, it has to be progressive, it has to be hard. It's very nice at the end of a day to be able to go out and run for therapeutic purposes, but by and large anybody who's noticing the scenery, hears Wagner or whatever it is playing in his ears, is not possibly working as hard as he should be.
One of the first things I did when we came to Sheffield and we got involved in running was to see what the area offered. And we live in a part of the city where when you leave your front door, almost any direction is up, so that you're not short of hill running. What you do is to select the right gradients, the right streets in relation to traffic. And we came across what we call the Rivlin Valley Road, and you can put together half-mile runs with short recoveries down there, which are really cruel. You survived training up there, you're tough, you're hard. Now don't bomb the first one too fast, make it more a ranging shot for pace judgment, because we've got to keep this right up to the end this time.
Yeah. A bit warm anyway.
Yeah, so what's your feet? Are you taped your feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. When you're ready.
I've been working out on that Rivlin Valley Road for at least 12 or 13 years. Basically what it is between 6 and 8 half-mile sections of road, back to back. I have the car as pace, and most of them are run significantly under 2 minutes with a very short recovery. That is hard. That is probably one of the hardest of the conditioning sessions that I do.
The quality of what you do is much more important than the quantity. Why pound the life out of a young runner when you can develop it with quality? Now, the bit about quality is that if you think of it in terms of speed and speed endurance, you are mentally equipping him to go through not so much a pain barrier, but to learn that no matter how badly he feels, he can still go. And when you're faced with the last lap of a solo run in a world record, there is no running training, there is no physiological secrets, no dietary aids, other than that single bloody-minded will to hang on over that last 400 and come sprinting through that line. Now, if you don't engender that on the way, you're missing the whole point of what the training is about. Now, how are your feet?
Okay.
That's your time.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yes.
But don't get many faster. All right?
Yep. It's extremely hard work. You have the car pushing up behind. It's nice because that is extra pace, but it does jack the time up considerably. It's probably the recovery that's the hardest. You're doing a run like that. If I catch Peter on a good day, then I've got a minute and a half.
You're inside half a minute now.
Right.
20 seconds. 10. When you are ready, Seb.
On the road, you don't think a great deal because the intensity and the hardness of that session is just simply trying to forget that it hurts. That's all you're trying to do. International running is just about feeling tired all the time. It's very difficult for people to really understand this. The worst thing I can do is to walk around the department store. That is just such a dreadful waste of energy.
That one was long.
Yeah, I know, because there's this bloody traffic thing. I can't do much.
It's about 100 metres long.
Yeah, it's about 159 too.
Yeah.
Anyway. It's not 100 metres long, it's not that far. Yeah. Only seems like it.
Yeah.
Only seems like it.
I think as an athlete, you're inclined to conserve energy in a way that other people don't. Why climb that flight of stairs if you've got 10 miles on the road this evening? Be lazy. And We're inclined to move around during our normal days like snails.
You can't drive an athlete. What happens is this, that if he chooses you and accepts you as a coach, you're only coaching with his consent. It is what he is prepared to consent to, and Seb's consent is total inside the areas for which I'm given charge.
I think one of the major benefits that I had was the fact that Peter did not come from an athletic background. Now, some people could say, well, the sessions he sets are hard simply because he doesn't know what it's like to have to run those kind of sessions. I look at that as a distinct advantage. He's intelligent. He works things, he has a scientist's mind, he is a qualified engineer, and is inclined to look at the sport from what he would say as first principles. Everything in mechanics you work through on that basis. He has worked through systematically. Firstly, he has a great capacity for understanding and a great capacity for research and for applying that research to a specific need, which is getting me to run faster.
Not too early in the morning, about 10:30 start tomorrow.
Okay. I'll tell you something. I don't think there's a sodding hill in this city I've not been up this afternoon.
You've had a good lunch, we'll do a good evening session.
Well, that gives me at least 4 hours sleep.
Don't be dossing your life away.
Yeah.
Do you want a drink?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look,
Drop of oil.
we're coming off the speed a bit, more on the speed endurance, and it's going to be hard now.
Off the speed and onto the grass. Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. It's been very nice to do what I've done with somebody that I actually enjoy working with. I tend to think we're very good mates, and we've had a lot of laughs and a lot of enjoyment and a lot of disappointment, but I wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
The very big one.
A July night.
And I guess you'd lose more than your pound if you ran the 1,500 metres in that one.
Before and after, I would think. Yes.
Seb, you've been racing in this for the last year, 18 months. That's polyester. Here's our new tactile vest, and we'd like to know how it grabs you.
I suppose I was one of the first athletes to get involved or be allowed to get involved openly with sports sponsorship in athletics.
Well, Seb, really, I've only got 2 more shots today. Right, hold it. That's it. Be the last one. I know I said that some time ago, but this is
About 20 minutes, yes.
About 20 minutes, I'll be saying. Yeah, and a bit higher with the head, and a little more to your left. That's it. No, left. Yes, that's it. Hold. That's it.
I'm very pleased I'm doing what I'm doing now. I don't think I'd want to be involved quite as commercially as athletes in 10 years' time are going to be. I still basically come, and as does Steve Ovett and Daley Thompson, it's what I've cited as the second-class rail ticket and the 75p meal voucher end of the sport. We didn't get involved in it for any other reason than we wanted to run, and we showed some talent at various age groups.
For part of the year, Seb Coe is based in Loughborough. He shares a small semi-detached with his close friend Steve Mitchell. Outside Seb's family, few people know him better.
Underneath it all, I think he's as hard as steel. He's outwardly very, as I said, easygoing and likes to laugh and a joke.
There's only 0.3 body fat on Seb, so if you haven't guessed, he's the slimmer one of the 2 of us. Do you take any precautions health-wise at all, Seb? You know, I mean, it's something I've always wanted to ask you. Like, do you suffer from athlete's foot?
Jay Williams on the box.
It's all right. I wonder what precautions you're about.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about them later.
He's a splitting image of Mal, isn't he? He's got the bit, or he's the other way round.
'Cause I can't get rid of mine. Do you suffer from athlete's foot? Because I do, and I can't get rid of mine.
And chop them off, it's easy.
I thought, why I was about to do.
He likes to laugh and the joke, and he likes to go out for a pint or two. But I wouldn't say he's got a bad temper, and I wouldn't say he's moody either.
76, that's
Don't remind me.
6 years, mate.
Yes, that's right.
I thought I was a bad pupil.
Born in Chiswick, West London in September 1956, Sebastion Coe still retains deep roots with the South, where much of his work outside athletics is now based. He owns a home in London and supports his local football club.
Just do that one, Seb. Show him when you get over this side. This'll hit the old heart, won't it? Roots boy at home Wednesday, won't it? Hey?
Well, I think it'll be a good game.
You're not playing, are you?
No, I'm not biased today. I'm an obsessive Chelsea fanatic. Have been since about 1965. I was first taken to a game on New Year's Eve, and I certainly watch the majority of the home games and as many away matches as I can get to.
At the time of the Moscow Olympics, in the summer of 1980, Sebastion Coe was considered invincible. The public and press alike were already hanging a gold medal around his neck for his first event, the 800 metres. His only likely rival being the other golden British middle-distance athlete, Steve Ovett.
There's nothing. There is just nothing like the Olympics. I had it explained to me before 80. I have tried to explain it to a number of people who rather fancy they may get into an Olympic team for the first time, that don't think that it's like anything else on earth. It isn't. It's not like a flight into Zurich or Brussels or Cologne, but only you stay there 2 weeks. It's something that you have to experience to get through. And I think probably, had I made the 1976 team, possibly the results in Moscow might have been slightly different.
After you've got up, there's nowhere else you can go. It's only down, you see. Well, this would be simple and it would be all right because you can cope with that. No, when you get to the top, there is somewhere else you can go. It is sideways.
There's Sebastion Coe. He's in the outside lane. That means he can run very wide and take his time before he filters in, either into the lead, and that'll be significant, or somewhere in the middle of the pack and perhaps take the lead after the first 300 metres. Coe starting somewhat tentatively on the outside, and Ovett cruising. Kirov on the inside has gone off fast, and Guimarães of Brazil is licking away in lane 3. Tall figure Wagenknecht coming round as well, and Coe is right on the outside and he's taking it easy. He's following Andreas Busser in, and at the moment no one wants to take the pace. You saw the bumping and boring there. Warren finds his way around. Ovett going wide, doesn't want to get caught, and this is going to be a slow race. And there's Busser coming round him, and Wagenknecht, the two East Germans. Dave Warren sitting on the shoulder of the Brazilian, who is the slowest in the field. And Ovett tucked on the inside is going to be in a difficult position to respond. He's got his eye on Coe, but he's well off the pace, and it's very, very slow. So watch for Dave Warren as they come up to the bell to look like going. The East German now, Wagenknecht pushing through, and Busser too.
I think we can expect Dave Warren to pick the pace up here. It's 54.55 at the bell. Very, very slow pace. Seb Coe is trapped off the back. Ovett is trapped in on the curve. He's pushed his way through once, and now the pace begins to build up as Dave Warren takes it up. Coe's sat at the back there. He's now going to come down as they're down the back straight. He's coming down the outside. Steve Ovett's coming out into a much better position. He doesn't want to get trapped, and he sets off, and the race is really on for the line.
And it's Kirov who's decided to go, and Ovett's in there with him, and Coe is in 5th place and coming around the outside like a steam train. He's past Wagenknecht, and Guimarães won't be able to respond to him. Kirov is going off the front. Ovett's got him on his sights, and now Coe coming up behind. And Ovett hits the front, and he's got to keep those arms moving. Coe coming through into 3rd place, fighting with the Brazilians, but Ovett's got 5 or 6 metres, and Ovett's going to take it easily. It was a slow run race, and he came through and he kicked decisively. Ovett first, Coe second, Kirov third. The time 1:45.4. The last 200 metres of 25.2 seconds.
I woke up the following morning. It was worse than any hangover.
I think it's probably fair to say, without sort of being over-dramatic, that I really was shattered.
Of course I was ashamed, because I'd already said that if he loses, it has to be my fault, and I was wondering what the hell was wrong. There's a lot of self-examination in that. You don't get away with it, you just can't palm it off on the athlete. Not as close as we are. That's not on.
I didn't even go out of this house. I sort of lived on whatever was in the cupboard rather than have to face people.
I decided, well, the only real way to sort of get out of all this was just to go out for a run. That's when I got into all the gear. It was a nice sunny Sunday morning. Got out on the road and was shadowed the whole way by about 6 or 7 photographers all hanging out of a car window. I mean, it looked crazy. It looked like something out of the Keystone Cops. I mean, they were just sort of hanging out of every hole in this car. And I got used to it after 2 or 3 miles, but they literally kept up and shadowed me for the full 10 or 12 miles that I was out on the road. And in fact, subsequent to that, a couple of days later, the English papers arrived in the village, and there was a great big photograph on the back page of one of the Sunday papers of me running along, and the caption on the top was Coe's Trail of Shame, which to me sort of just captured the essence of the British sporting press.
It seemed that everyone was saying one thing, and they were everywhere I went. I could hear conversations. No, he's never going to do it. How can he expect to do it now? And I thought, and then of course they were talking about Seb, because this town was alive with talk about Seb, and I just raced back to this house and wanted to drown myself. I just hated all the conversations I'd heard. Everyone, nobody giving him a chance. Nobody.
I think I was very low for a day and a half, 2 days. I suppose really the moment I realised that I was going to be okay was the 1500 metre semi-final, when I ran a good, aggressive, normal type of race. It's that realisation that not necessarily that you're going out there to win, but it's going to cost other athletes an arm and a leg to beat you.
And Straub has decided now to take it on, and I'd expect Coe to take it up with 500 metres to go. Ovet's in 4th place, covering it nicely, moving up behind Coe. Straub has really struck quite hard off the front, and Wooster's responding through into 4th place as well. So now just let's see what Coe does, because Straub has committed himself. He likes a fast-paced run off the front anyway. But once again, that looming figure of Ovet in 3rd place, not looking stretched yet, just handling it, reeling them in slowly, not using up any excess energy. As Straub now commits himself to the front, going into this last lap.
Now they're in single file. Straub of East Germany, Seb Coe, Steve Ovet and Wooster from East Germany. Wooster not looking too comfortable in 4th place, but he could become a danger. The pace still pushing along. Mare of France moves up into 5th place. Coe still sat back there. Ovet is watching him all the way down the back straight. Ovet beginning to wind up now, ready for a strike.
Yes, he's going to be ready to take Coe as they go into the bend and trap Coe behind Straub. Straub with 200 to go, and he's way off the front, and here goes Ovet starting to move up. Coe is starting his sprint now, and it's between these three, the 3 class men of the field. Coe hits the front, looks around, and he's got Ovet on his shoulder. And now this is the test. He's got 2 metres on him, and Ovet's going to have to sprint all the way here. Coe's away at the front, and it looks as if Coe's going to do it. Coe is going to win the 1500 metres, and Ovet's going to get only a bronze medal. A fantastic run by Coe. He's done it. He's got the gold. In 2nd place, Straub, and Ovet just left it too late. He ran it right off the front, the last lap there of about 52.3, and he cannot believe it. A fantastic run after the misery of last weekend when he lost in the 800, and now everything is back and golden again. Steve grins. He's not taking it badly.
Well, that was unbelievable.
I think if he'd have been beaten in the 15 by myself or Straub or someone like that, the world would have just said, well, Seb's a failure. A horrible thing to actually to do, but they would have done, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the press were actually loading the guns, waiting to fire them almost on that particular day.
It was Seb Coe aquaplaning down the back straight there that got to the front and really shook the world and shook the other 1500 metre runners there. We didn't expect to see that at all. All credit to him to come back from such a psychological low.
Moscow was murderous, and it went wrong for 2 people, because Steve had got 45 unbroken wins. He had no business in the world losing the 46th. Sebastion Coe was the world record holder of the 800 metres, and he got beaten. He made a right ricket of the race. So he's not supposed to do it. So they both come away with a gold medal, and they both come away with a real mental bruising, because they have done it's not thinking the unthinkable, they've actually done it. They've lost the thing that nobody else has said they're going to lose.
Between the dramatic outcome of Moscow and the Los Angeles Olympics 4 years later, Sebastion Coe and Steve Ovett did not meet again on the track. In the intervening years, both suffered through injury, illness, and defeat. In the 12 months leading up to Los Angeles, Seb Coe suffered. Once the golden boy of British sport, defeat was a new experience. His confidence had been severely eroded. To the public, and particularly elements of the press, he was over the top. He had had his spell of supremacy. His time had passed. For Seb Coe, this was the loneliest period of his life. David Miller, who continued to support and believe in Coe, recalls that period.
In '83, has to scratch from the World Championships after a series of defeats, and he's in hospital and thinking he may never run again. Now, not only was he very ill then, but the press gave him a real hard time. That there were breakdowns between him and Peter, allegedly, which was rubbish. That he was overtrained, that he was taking drugs. I mean, every kind of accusation there could be was leveled against him at a time when emotionally and physically he was very low because he was ill. So he had to carry all this and then make the effort and the decision even. Should he have another go? Could he have another go? Was there time between when he was getting well again after a severe course of drug treatment and so on in the hospital? And he got time to get back for Los Angeles. He didn't even know whether he could actually get back on the track, never mind win an Olympic medal.
As I said to him, you've had so much bad luck, you've had so much ill-founded comment, that, it's beginning to get compounded into your running, and the only person who can get it out of yourself is you.
I think it was a very difficult time, and I think it was a very difficult time, really, in his place in the family. I think I think we all felt, he needed a lot of backing, he needed a lot of support, and yet it was a very difficult thing to do because you knew he was going to have to obviously sort himself out. I mean, medically he had to sort himself out, and whatever anyone says, I maintain that while medically you have to sort yourself out, the more difficult side of it is the mental side of it, because having lost races, obviously in the back of your mind is continuously that feeling, is that really going to happen to me again? And, from somebody who really wasn't used to losing races, I mean, apart from the 800 in Moscow, he really didn't lose races.
I had to be physically okay because there was no way that I would be doing what I was doing in training. And I realised that the real problem was probably up there, and that was for me to sort out and no one else. I knew that by the time I'd got to the Olympic final for the 8, I thought, well, I'm in with as good a chance as anybody. I desperately wanted to win it. But I also sat down before the race and thought, well, okay, you've done well to get here. 6 or 7 months ago it looked unlikely. A year ago it looked impossible. I just wanted to go out there and run and know that at the end of the race I wasn't going to walk off that track with that dreadful feeling that you just have not done it again.
It'll be courage to take them through in 51.07, so respectably quick, not fantastically fast, but it'll sort out the sprinters here. And really running very wide there, Concella and Gray out in lane 3. Ovett getting caught at the back by the Italian. Now Coe in 3rd place on Cruz's shoulder. On the inside there is Coe as Cruz pushes to the front. Coe's got him covered. Jones on the inside, Gray coming round the outside. 200 metres to go now, and the pace is picking up furiously. Cruz in a beautiful position. And Ovett's got problems. He's going toward the back of the field. On the inside then Coe, and now Cruz strikes, and Coe sitting on his shoulder, striking hard with Earl Jones, and it looks as if Cruz is going to hold this 2-metre advantage all the way down the home straight. And coming through for 2nd place once again it'll be Coe. So Cruz wins a new Olympic record, 1:43, and Coe just wasn't able to cover his break.
I was beaten between about 120 metres and 80 metres. I couldn't hold on to the guy when he actually made his surge, and he did what all great runners do, which is he simply got his gap, He made the gap very quick and just maintained it. And once he got to the front, again he did what all great runners do, which is he relaxed at speed. He just shut the door on everybody. Exactly the same point that I pulled out, so did Jones from the inside, and I ran right up behind him and actually crashed my hand into his elbow, and he has a very, very hard elbow. Cruz had made his effort, and I think at that time it was already crucial. I was half a stride down on him at the vital points, but he was just stronger and faster over those critical few metres. I hadn't much of an idea of where Steve had finished, or in fact the desperate problems that he was struggling with. And I mean, I have amazing admiration for the guy, because it was just phenomenal, and not just physically but mentally, that he was able to gear himself up each time to face what was inevitably always going to keep happening. I looked round and he was sort of kneeling behind, and I went down. I said, you know what the problem is? I said, I think we're both a bit too old to be playing with fire like this.
Interesting to see who takes the pace, and it's Coe who finds himself in the lead, which is surprising. I'm sure he won't want to be there for very long.
I was getting better. The more I raced, the better I got. I was actually beginning to enjoy the games, actually relishing the thought of going out there and doing battle. There was a bit of a thrill as well, I suppose, with actually stepping out onto the track and saying, no, that's my title, and you lot aren't having it.
It's nice and easy and relaxed coming through, and Abascal picks it up now from Steve Scott, and I think Scott is just going to go backwards. He looks heavy and tired, and that's the end of the American challenge as the Spaniard takes it up now. With Coe very, very easy and relaxed, and Cram, after this very bad season, has only had about 3 races, getting into his prancing style, Ovett covering quickly, and Abascal at the bell is leading Britain's 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and all of them looking menacing. Perhaps Ovett a little heavy, but Coe looks good in the front there, and he'll be attacking Abascal, and Ovett's dropped out. Ovett's decided he just can't handle it. They've had 7 races in 9 days. It's been an appallingly tough programme, and so that leaves Cram and Coe to take on Abascal, with Coe in a great position, and now here comes Cram attacking down this back straight. A real surge, and Coe's either sensed it or noticed it, but he attacks quickly, gets in front of Abascal and holds the pole position. And now it's the Olympic champion against the world champion, and it surely must be between these two. Abascal's hanging on there, but he must know in his heart of hearts that he's running for the bronze medal. It's Coe now to try and cope with Cram's attack. Now, has Cram done enough training? Can he cope with the Olympic champion? And he can't, and Coe's away off the front, and the crowd are rising, and this is a moment of history. Coe is away, he's running into history, and he knows it. Cram settles for 2nd place, but the winner is taking his moment of history, the first runner ever to win gold medals twice at 1,500 metres.
I can remember going into about, getting to about 300 metres, 250 from the tape, and looking round and seeing a white vest there, and I thought, right, OK, well, I know it's one of the Brits, so I had to look round again and realised it was Crammy. Either Steve was going to take it up early, or I was going to take it up early, or we'd both sit in there. I'd looked behind, and I'd seen the guy there. We got to about 220, 230 metres from the tape. He made his effort to try and get past. And actually, it was at the point that Abascal was beginning to fade, and I realised that I'd got a very small gap to have to move through very, very quickly. And I accelerated and held him off for the first time. That would not be it, because the one thing that Steve likes to do, and he's very, very difficult to beat, is once he's in front of you. And I knew that there would be at least another couple of attempts to get by me. And I remembered having to hold him off again at about the crown of the bend. And we were really moving at that point. But I was feeling very relaxed. Steve gathered himself again and came back just into the finishing straight. And I thought, if I really have to do it again, I do have another gear to go into. That's when I managed to pull away. I mean, it's that dreadful moment when you actually, you know you're flat out and you could not respond again if somebody came up alongside you. You know, I didn't at that point realise what the gap was. The first thing that actually went through my mind was, where the hell was my old man? And suddenly, the immediate elation and pleasure and relief of having won, and then suddenly, as though somebody had just switched off one tap and turned on another one, and that the pleasure and enjoyment and love of it just was suddenly switched off, and then just the venom and anger came through, and then moments later the other tap was turned on, and it was yes, I suppose it's like, they say that, you know, when you're in the process of drowning, your life flashes before you. Just for a couple of moments, I just went through a lot of different emotions.
I think it's one of the greatest recoveries in the history of sport. Given all the factors that there were, his coming back to retain the 1500 metres and also get another silver in the 800 was, I mean, factually it was without parallel, and I think it's one of the outstanding Olympic events of all time.
He's now the complete racer, which is a very good thing. I'm very happy about that. Partly, I suppose, because it gives me satisfaction to think that if the job ever can be finished, it is.
It's nice to be able to feel that competitively I've proved myself twice at the very highest level. Olympics are a physical thing, but mentally they're bruising. And I was pleased that actually when looking at the field in Los Angeles, I lasted it better than virtually anybody there, in that I did have 7 races in 9 days. And actually for the last couple of years now, as I see my career, I'm wanting to do it for myself. I want to actually do something at 5,000 metres, which is satisfying really only my own curiosity. And if I fail at it, fine. It's not the end of the world.